Hello. Maybe three or four times the charm. Oh boy. Audio, visual problems galore. But I figured since it's short and I have time, I'm gonna try to maybe hurry up for the next couple months on these podcasts and see if they work. So here we are, the final chapter of Redwall and its epilogue. So I'll try to remember everything I've been wanting to touch on in the last two chapters. Um, but so we start off the chapter, the final chapter, with basically Clooney has all of the Redwallers out on the lawn. He's basically having them bow to him, and they're on their knees, and he brings out Abbot Mortimer. And I really like this, where Abbot Mortimer's basically like, I know who you are, Clooney. I could try and beg for the lives of my people, but my Redwallers, my friends, but I know you're not gonna care what I do. I could beg and get on my knees, but it's not gonna really change anything. So basically, no, no, no to you. So there we are. Uh, and so he throws Mortimer in the ground. He injures him with his poisoned tail. And then, of course, in steps Matthias in full garb. And I really like that image of him against the light as because the sun's coming up and the light comes streaming through. And he's just a warrior in the gateway. It reminds me kind of a bit of like kind of a reintroduction to Luke Skywalker in the beginning of Return of the Jedi, that hero kind of journey completion where we have the warrior fully there. Of course, it freaks out Clooney because we looked at the previous chapter where he's like, I thought all my nightmares were all going to end. And of course, they're not. They're they're only just beginning, at least for a little while longer. Anyway, but then we even have that really great bit where like one of the rats or weasels, I can't remember, lunges at Matthias and Matthias just hews him to the ground, no problem, and it's a really great, yeah, here we go. And then Matthias, of course, recites I am that is, which I think is really interesting because I'm not saying, I don't think it's necessarily like about them necessarily just being if there's some weird spiritual thing going on, or if it's simply acknowledging, hey, like it doesn't matter what you call me. It's not like Flynn cares if he's Matthias or Martin. It's kind of like I am the warrior who's sent to destroy her. That's all you need to know is that I am the warrior predicted who would kill you and destroy you, and I'm here to do it. So it really doesn't matter what you think of me or what I am. I am I am your death knell, basically. I am vengeance against everything evil you have done. And so the great battle begins, and there's just a burst of life as all the sparrows come flying down, and the shrews attack, and we have some really great images like Constance throwing some weasels against the gate and all that. But the main thing is, of course, is we have Matthias's final battle with Clooney, and then going back and forth. And there's some really great images of how Matthias uses the shield at several points to attack and defend. We have Clooney lashing out with his tail, of course, and Matthias cutting off the end of it. And so we really have some great images there. But finally, he's got him nearly pinned in the bell tower. But Matthias has managed to escape up the stairs. Um, we have Hugo, who's been ringing the bell joyously, uh, or at least warning. and joyously warning and calling out for kind of that rah rah rah. But Friar Hugon's fallen underneath the stairs. He exposes himself with his sneezing, and we have the 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 final question of what will Matthias do. So basically, Clooney has Hugo in his clutches, and he basically says, "Come down. I know you're honorable, so come down. I'll let him go, and you'll come down." And Matthias is like, "Okay." And then, as soon as Hugo is let go, we have Matthias just hacking through the rope hanging the bell, and it falls on Clooney. And um, so how honorable was Matthias in this choice? Well, he said he'd come down. He didn't even say I'll necessarily surrender. He didn't say I'll lay down my weapon. Necessarily, I don't think so. So just come down, and then or then lay down your weapon. And so he didn't say the opposite, lay down your weapon and then come down. So I think Matthias is cleverly playing the game, and he knows Clooney has no honor in him either, and that it doesn't matter what Clooney says he'll do or has any intention of keeping any promises on his behalf. So why does it matter? And so Matthias just cutting the bell, and that great image of uh, uh, Brian Jakes is really good at like really just kind of silent moments. I like his description of really kind of like just things, the way time slows down, just that bell hanging in space for just a second before bong, hitting Clooney on the head and crushing him and completely destroying him. And it's like, ow. I'm pretty sure that's more than just like a bonk on the head. It's like, I think his whole body's crushed. I think he's crushed to basically a flat pancake. It's like, ow. So very kind of um, like if you actually think about it, it's not as clean as kind of like maybe the animated series depicts, where it's just the bell. It's like no, maybe like we actually see a body being crushed under the weight of the bell. But speaking of which, the interesting thing about the TV series is, if I remember correctly, and it's been a long time since I've seen the TV series, and there were a couple things that were different, but most of it was just adding a bit more battle and doing a stretching it out just a little bit. I think it's the most stretched out of the Redwalls they did, only because this is also one of the more shorter books in the series, so they needed like an extra battle scene or so. But other than that, it's pretty much the same. I might go through it sometime, but that series sometime. But what I remember, the key thing is they substitute cornflower for Friar Hugo in the animated series. Um, I like that it is Friar Hugo in this book. I like it better than cornflower, and not because I don't want to have like cornflower captured, or like it's demeaning to her or something, but mainly just because I think it's a bit more thematically relevant to the story. We had Friar Hugo at the beginning, this kind of pompous little fat little mouse, who's the head cook and who's in charge of the facilities. Here we have him at the end. He's frightened, he's vulnerable, and here we are about to lose everything, right? He's the one who kicks off his great feast, is the thing that happens right before everything goes wrong. And here we are, and he's threatened. He's the joy, all the celebration he brought. despite his little pompous attitude, and the fact that I like that he actively takes action by ringing the bell. Um, we're being threatened by a force that's threatening to take all that joy that was before the events of the book, or at the beginning of the events of the book, and we have Friar Hugo is kind of the manifestation of that. Him being the friar, um, I think, is really important, and so I actually really like that as kind of a symbolic thing. I think it works better, and it makes um, and Hugo's just we haven't seen him in a while, so it's nice to have him have a moment too. Um, Even if it's being captured, but we also have him ringing the bell, so I always like that. So just because we haven't seen him in quite a while in the book, outside of a few scenes where he's cooking. Um, so we have that, and we have Matthias coming down, and everything's taken care of. Um, uh, I like that image. Like they defeated everybody, and but some tried to run, and outside they met uh the giant cat and the giant owl. Captain Snow and Squire Julian Gingerbeer are out there, and it's like you just ran into more trouble, probably even bigger trouble, considering cats and owls probably do more than just kill you. They probably can will eat you, especially since Captain Snow doesn't have very many options now. Now that he promised not to harm another mouse or shrew, he probably doesn't have very much more options. So he's taking advantage of this situation. So we have that, which is really delightful. And so we have so, but of course Mortimer has been deeply wounded, and he's um, not good, um, of course, and so he's dying, and he makes his final proclamation for what he wants now that everything's been restored, and talks a lot about like it's good to be like he knows he's dying, but he's trying to enjoy the little moments he has left. He acknowledges that the rose is finally in bloom, which is a beautiful thing. He appoints Brother Alf as his successor, which I really like. Um, he's pretty obviously based upon where the book is going, pretty much the most obvious candidate in the book, so that's not terribly surprising. But we we have him joining hands with Cornflower, and then the revelation, of course, that Matthias will not be a member of the Order. Instead, he will be the champion of Redwall, and I really like that because it reminds me of actually like King David in Israel, where he was not allowed to build the temple, right? So we have a character who shed too much blood in order to reestablish the temple, but he's still God's instrument, the main way he's going to restore uh, the opportunity for Israel to thrive, and it will be carried on later by his son. And so we have somewhat of a similar thing going on where he's the champion sent that won't that will protect that opportunity for the Abbey and for the mice to continue their lives, to continue living in that peace and harmony, but he will be still separate from that. And so I really like that. And then and so I think that really works as kind of a conclusion for Matthias, and it really works within his character. And Mortimer's recognition that he's set apart, he's special, but also um, doing so in a way that doesn't demean him or make him like um, any more important though, in that he's fit for this one task. Um, so there we are. But I did want to close on Mortimer's last words because I really like the last paragraph for Mortimer in in Redwall. Here we are. Ah, yes. I see the most beautiful summer morning of my life. The friends I know and love are all about me. Redwall, our home, is safe. The sun shines warmly upon us. Nature is ready to yield her bounty again in plenty this autumn. I have seen it all before many times, and yet I never cease to wonder. Life is good, my friends. I leave it to you. Do not be sad, for mine is a peaceful rest. And so I really like that because, um, as a conclusion, because it's acknowledgement that life goes on and that there are good things to look forward to even after so much sadness and destruction and death, and that things continue forward, and we just have to lay hold on it and use those opportunities to do what is good, to do what is lovely, to do what is right, and to enjoy one another and to be a benefit to one another. And that these things are to be cherished each and every single moment, right? He says, I've seen it many times before. He's seen the seasons come and go, harvest come, and spring has turned into summer, summer's turned into winter. Well, summer has turned into fall, fall has turned into winter, um, winter to spring, repeating. But to never take that for granted and to lay hold of it and to use and to wonder at it every day that life is a gift. Life is good. Life itself is a good thing, even in a broken um, world at times. Um, so I really like that. So here we are. And so thus Abbot Mortimer died. Um, but what I really also feel like talking about is, of course, the epilogue. And that kind of flows from that. We have things progressing onward. We have Methuselah, no, Matthias Methuselah Mortimer being born. Matthias and Cornflower's son, who then gets nicknamed or shortened to Mattimeo. And we'll get to Mattimeo, not the next book, but we'll get to Mattimeo. Um, but then we'll um, also have uh, Silent Sam being able to speak, which I really like. Silent Sam finally begins to speak, and what he's when he's first the narrator at the end is describing. It turns out to be John Churchmouse recording all this, but John Churchmouse is describing what Sam is talking about. And he's talking about that summer, the summer of that battle and the war that was fought, and so he is passing that memory on to the younger ones who either don't remember it or don't remember it as well, but he's passing that memory on and in keeping that alive so you can move forward into the future, and there are things that are important to take from that uh, generations can remember, look back on, and be grateful for the life they're living now. So I really like that. We have Warbeak teaming up with Friar Hugo, which is really funny, and like her eating up all the food and becoming the assistant cook, which is really funny image, right? Because of the sparrows only eating things like worms and seeds and other insects and stuff. And so here she is, she's taking from that and moving forward with it, and it's really funny and like taking joy in those new things that she cherishes and finds pleasure in, and that she can find other things other than just worms to eat, but maybe she's overeating in that, so it's a little funny. Uh, we have the last mention of the beaver, Winifred and Ambrose Spike and the beaver making October Ale, which I always love the mention of October Ale. I've never understood quite what it would taste like. I'm not much of a beer ale person or drinking person, but it always, every time October Ale is mentioned, it's a beautiful kind of acknowledgement of the joy of life and stuff. So I like that small little mention. And then we have Tim and Tess, who are his children. John Church and Mouse's children ring the bells. And so again, passing stuff on. They're ready to take over this new role and again moving forward, right? Because the bell is broken, but it's being remade into something new and a reminder, right? The Methuselah and Mortimer bells uh, that are acknowledgement of sacrifice, acknowledgement of the past, but again, hope for the future with the pealing and the joy that those bells now bring. Uh, one being made two, right? It's split in two, and maybe it's not as big and grand as it once was, but it still brings joy and is still a lovely thing to hear. And so, even though it's not quite the same, things can move on. And so, we have that as pretty much the ending. And we have John's kind of wink, uh, where he says, "Come and visit us." And it's an invitation to like that we're still desiring peace, that this still is a safe haven. In spite of all the things that have happened, this is a place where you can come and rest and have peace because others were willing to uh, do what was necessary for that peace to endure. Um, so there we are. There's the end. Next time we'll be talking about Mossflower. I might do another kind of top five things in this book or moments or characters. I might do a couple of those before that, but otherwise we will be moving on to Mossflower, which is again one of the best books in the series, I think. And so really eager to get into that. So have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.